The only time black men are allowed to speak is when it benefits others. So hey, this is your opportunity to speak. I want to hear from you. And if you want to make this voice louder and clearer, then what you need to do is contribute to the Cash App, the PayPal, and the Super Chat. I appreciate you.
Some will be threatened. You do. Period. What's up, you guys? This is Dennis Furling, and I'm back again. And I want to talk to you guys about a continuing subject, and that is basically about black men traveling overseas. I know that there's been a lot of information in the news about a couple of different black men being shot. And, you know, not everything is racial, okay? But there is a history of racism and colorism in South America and Latin American countries. So we want to address that today. Now, here's the thing. Why is this even important? Well, 64% of black men have entered into the middle class, right? So despite what you've heard, there is a lot of money floating around the black community in the hands of black men. We are actually pretty well off, actually. So what's happening is you have a lot of black men who are beginning to, weigh their options, see what's best for them. Some of us have come to the conclusion that the United States is a hell of a place to be right now. And so we're looking for other options. So this article here is most black males reach the middle class or higher. Here's what drives their success. This is a 2018 report. What this is saying is that 6 in 10 black men reach the middle class or higher by middle age, a nearly 20% increase since the 1960s. And what you'll see is that if you compare this to this article, which was written back in, let me see, the Family Institute, there should be a number here, but I believe this was written back in 2007. In 2007, it was only 55% of black men. So in a matter of 14 years, we've increased another 5%. Now, why is that? They're saying because of our education, because of our military service, and basically because we as black men have roots in the United States, which is the wealthiest country in the world. And so what's going on? Well, what's going on is, black men are saying, well, what else can I do? How far can my money take me? And so, brothers are beginning to travel. Now, here's the thing. You are elite level black men. You carry yourselves different. You have money, you have opportunity, you're used to first world living. Of course, we have our black brothers in London and, Europe who are those counterparts. But for the most part, the rest of the world is not used to seeing black men like yourself, educated, upwardly mobile with money. You don't make it out of the United States and enter into this level of wealth with all the obstacles that we have to deal with without being extremely good at what you do. So as I said before, as it is right now, you guys can go to blackdemographics.com or just simply Google 64% of black men entered into the black middle class and 20% are rich and upper middle class. Who's used to that, right? They don't get that everywhere. For the most part, the darker people around the world are, subject to, poverty, impoverishment. And so when you go places like Latin America, they have black men there, or what they would call black men, or men of mixed heritage, but for the most part, their skin is black, where they're not used to seeing black men like you. And you're going to carry yourself in a different way. You're going to operate in a different way. It's typically is going to be pretty much how it is in the United States. When you do a business transaction, it's not necessary that you get to know people on the other side. You don't necessarily have to smile. You get in there, you exchange your money, you send a loan, bam. It's business, cut and dry, move on to the next one. Now, there was a time when Black men were looking to get married here in the United States. And so you get married, you have children, and that kind of forces you to establish roots here. And there's no need to travel around. But now, with more than 51% of Black men not married and not having children, there's really no obligation or no substantial reason to remain in the United States. It's no wonder why hundreds of thousands of Black American men are traveling to South America, Central America, the Caribbean every year, and of course, other European countries also. Some are looking for a good time. They want to party with the chicas. They want to hang out. Some are looking for real love. You know, I know a few guys who met some beautiful women. I know a guy who married a beautiful woman for Colombia, brought her back up here, and they're living a wonderful life. I think it's been 6 years thus far. And there are still others who are looking for business opportunities. Now, it's not saying that they're looking to come back. Some are actually looking to stay. But whatever the reason, you guys are going to, you Black men, because of the traditional racism and colorism that exists, you know, and whatever the reason, you're going to experience some resistance from locals. Here, sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, any group of men coming to an occupied area is going to cause the locals to be nervous, suspicious, and territorial. Okay, especially considering the history of Black racism or anti-Black racism and colorism in Latin America. So it's so embedded that many of them will say it doesn't exist. And this is to me, as an intellectual and as a person who studies these things, and especially as a Black American, you know, I find that kind of disingenuous. But the idea, this is what you got to understand, the idea that upper middle class and rich Black men will be moving and bringing in resources, education, ingenuity, and American mannerisms, and the mentality, and that mentality indicates that there's going to be some change. So you're going to get some pushback because of that. The mere presence of these men, the mere presence of these Black men enrolling in schools, establishing businesses, purchasing cars, homes, is going to upset the social hierarchy that's already in place. You know, these Black men will invariably move into the more affluent neighborhoods and send their kids to expensive international schools and private schools and whatever universities they have, and they'll become employers of the locals. Moreover, because of their wealth and resources and social status, they'll begin to attract, you know, women, and most likely you're going to get high quality women because, hell, women aren't race loyal. No matter what race they typically go for the men who are high value, as they call them, or men who have power, money, and resources. And that's generally how that works. That's what women do. And so what's going to happen is you're going to create jealousy and envy amongst local men. And you're going to have some problems with the local women too, because many of them are not necessarily going to benefit from these men, especially depending on their age. You know, they're just not going to benefit. And so you're going to have, and some women they want to keep the structure how it is. And so in anticipation of that occurrence, I'm going to make some suggestions as to how you should travel and how you should operate when you're overseas, and how to lay down roots in South America, Central America, and how you should go about protecting yourself both politically, socially, and financially. But just to drive home the point, the thing I want to first establish with you guys is that, you know, South America has a long history of anti-Black racism. And again, oftentimes what will happen is South America, Central America, the Caribbean, they have some anti-Black racism, and it's often rooted in colorism, because many of them are of African descent, and they will use that and say, oh, well, I can't be racist because my great-great-grandmother is Black, right? And that sounds good, but the problem is the colorism that they have basically says that the closer you are to white, generally speaking, the higher your social status is and the more resources you receive, the more favor you receive, the more privilege you receive. And the closer you are to Black, then the less privilege you receive. So even if your great-great-grandmother was white, or even if your great-great-grandmother was Black, you are still and you're still fair skinned or nearly white, you're going to relieve a different sort of privilege than a dark skinned person, even if you all are in the same family. And so they recognize that. We understand that. Most Black people who grew up in who had family members from the South, you remember your grandma and how she used to, the great grandma especially if you had one who was from Louisiana or something like that, who would always make mention of how this niece or that cousin's hair was nappy, or you know, something like that. So you know, it's common. We understand colorism in Black America. We understand it very well. It's not anything new to us. But what I want to understand, what I want you guys to understand, is that it is a problem in South America. Colorism is a problem. You're going to have to face it. The social status is based on your connection or your closeness to whiteness, and they've had some issues about that. So let's go ahead and present. I want to first give a shout out to Quixotic Bastard 83. He's a new member. Thank you, Randall. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Let me see, my man Lee N. McDaniels, I believe. Uncle D just want to bring to your attention that anti-Black Hispanics are using your content on YT, disparage Black American men from travel. Well, you know, brother, you know, that's fine. I understand what they're doing, but they're welcome to do it, and they're welcome to come to the show. You know, I can't control what people do with my content, and you know, it's unfortunate, but that's fine. You know, and anybody is welcome to come talk to me about this, and we'll have this conversation with them. But in the meantime, let's continue. Blackout: how Argentina eliminated Africans from its history and conscience. Okay, so here's the thing. If you know a little bit about, you know, South America, the vast majority of the Africans who were captured on the west coast of Africa and in the Congo and South Africa and brought here to the United States through the transatlantic slave trade, they were brought to South America, Central America, and the Caribbean. They were not brought to the United States. This article is basically laying the foundation. Tens of millions of Black Africans were forcibly removed from their homelands in the 16th century to the 19th century to toil on the plantations and farms of the New World. This so-called Middle Passage accounted for one of the greatest forced migrations of people in human history, as well as one of the great tragedies that the world has ever witnessed. All right, so the thing is, what they're trying to understand is, why is it that there are so few Black Americans in Argentina, or so few Africans in Argentina? And so, you know, but they will say that there is about 1 million there. But the thing is, what happened to them, right? And so historians generally attribute it to two major factors. This is the sudden mass disappearance of Black Americans from the country, the deadly war against Paraguay from 1865 to 1870, where Black men were basically drafted and placed on the front lines, and many of them died. You know, so because of the heavy casualties, you know, there was a gender imbalance, and the Black women end up dating with lighter skinned men, and that diluted the population. And then there was this, it's been alleged the president of Argentina between 1868 to 1864, Domingo Faustino Sarmiento, sought to wipe out Blacks from the country in a policy of covert genocide through extremely repressive policies, including possibly forced recruitment of Africans into the army, and by forcing Blacks to remain in neighborhoods where disease would decimate them in the absence of healthcare. So this is something that historians are saying what happened. Telling Sarmiento wrote in his diary in 1848, in the United States, 4 million are Black, and within 20 years, there will be 8 million. What is done with such blacks hated by the white race? Slavery is a parasite that vegetation of English colonization has left attached to a leafy tree of freedom. Okay, so this is what they're saying, you know, and so here, even as far back as 1848, you see some anti-black rhetoric from the highest office. And so this is nothing new. So when folks from Latin America, you know, suggest that there is no racism there, that kind of flies in the face of the facts. So that's Venezuela. Now we can go on to Colombia, because I know there's a lot of questions. Afro-Colombian women are risking their lives to defend their community. So there are some communities of those of African descent, specifically on the coast. And what they're saying is the big developers are coming in trying to build these homes on the coast and, you know, basically putting them out the office. And some of the ladies are saying, you know, when they were shooting, none of you all got shot. It's just us, poor Black or mixed Colombians that got shot. The white mestizo people who brought the properties at the worst moment of the armed conflict and now have big hotels and tower blocks of supermarkets. Why did the bullets never hit them? Asked Leila Arroyo, another PCN leader. There are no for sale signs in any of those places, but there are in the homes of our people. What is that? What is that? Scares my people, doesn't scare those who move in. Okay, and so this is an example of a Colombian woman here of African descent. Clearly, she's a Black woman. I mean, clearly, I mean, there's no getting around that. Estupian believes that the violence is aimed at destroying the social fabric to create a weak community that can be controlled socially, culturally, and politically. Women are being targeted to prevent them from repairing that social fabric, she says, with paramilitaries using femicide and RAPE as systematic tools to control their territories and intimidate the population. This is things that we as Black Americans have experienced. We understand how they try to control the Black American politics, how they try to control Black society through different cultural things and political things. Something as simple as putting a highway through the middle of a Black neighborhood can very well destroy it. And so these same tactics are being done down in Colombia. And I'm telling you, it seems no matter where we go around the world, it's always the darker skinned people who are subject to, you know, racism and oppression. So it's important that we realize that we have to look out for each other, just like the African Americans did in the 1980s with South African apartheid. You know, we came together and were able to boycott South Africa until it began to change the policies. Now, here's something else I found interesting, and I kind of wanted to give you guys a variety of different looks. Brazilian football has a racism problem from the roots to the elite. Now, if you appreciate what I'm doing, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. I try to educate you guys. I think this is important. If you brothers are going to begin to travel around overseas, you should know it's not going to be some hunky-dory thing. Okay, you already got the fact that you're a foreigner moving to somebody else's country. And then, of course, there's this colorism. And so you want to see how the Blacks there are being treated. Now, of course, you're an American. As long as you have that American tag, you know, there's going to be a different kind of treatment that you receive. You know, they're going to acknowledge, of course, that you're Black. The fact that you're American means that, you know, there's kind of a different take that they'll have on you. Okay. Let me see here. INI R2. I think that's it. We are too says, thank you for this. Bring this aspect to the dynamics of Latin America. Although I have only been to the DR and Brazil, I'm well aware of the anti-Black sentiments also in the mission like the race. Yeah, you know, I was going to say, I've never had a problem in DR, Puerto Rico, Colombia, or Brazil. I'm always treated with great respect. I'm always treated with courtesy. You know, I bring my sons down there. We have a great time. The people are always kind. I'm courteous and respectful, but again, I don't live there. You see what I mean? And because I don't live there, I assume it's different. And so in order to really understand what's going on, I have to hear the words of the Black people who actually live there and hear what they have to say. So, that's what's important to me. So in this particular case, Brazilian football, when they say football, they're referring to what we call here in America soccer, has a racism problem from the grassroots to the elite. Two depressing, in this article, of course, is January 2021, so it's very recent. Two depressing incidents over the festive. Sorry about this, guys. Two depressing incidents over the festive season show discrimination is apparent in every level of Brazilian football. Okay. Let's see what it says. Black people in Brazil are beaten to death in supermarkets on Black Consciousness Day, routinely harassed and brutalized by the police, and even cropped out of marketing photos for private schools. So only their white peers are shown. The football field is usually one of the few places where Black Brazilians are not subjected to prejudice and racism. A stage that provides a form of escapism from the harsh realities of everyday life. So based on this statement, and this is written by this is a news report out of The Guardian, and just that itself is amazing. That you guys, the links are here, you can check that out. This is Brazil, and there's so many Black men that go to Brazil, and I haven't heard any issues there of any substance, but this is the stories from other Black people, people of African descent. This is what they're saying. You see what I mean? And so I have to consider this. You see, like, this is where I'm moving to. This is the community I'm going to involve myself in. Okay, I get it. We understand racism. I don't think there's a place on earth more racist than some of the cities and towns here in the United States are anti-Black. I think maybe South Africa has some places that are worse, but for the most part, when you go down there, if you decide to move, even, on a vacation, it's going to be a little different dynamic. You'll be staying in a hotel. Everybody's probably going to have their best behavior out there. Now, if you go out there looking for trouble, just like anywhere, you'll find it. But the bottom line is, we're in a situation where you just have to be aware, especially if you plan on setting up roots. So there are two incidents over Christmas to show the game is far from immune to racism, either at the grassroots level or the professional ranks. First, a clip of an 11-year-old boy, Luis Eduardo, went viral at the conclusion of a match in Caldas Novas in the rural state of Goiás. The youngster was left distraught and in tears after the opposition's coach repeatedly told his players to close down the preto, which is a highly offensive racial slur in Portuguese. Preto is it means black, but it means black in a very negative way. It's it's akin to calling him maybe the N-word, maybe darky, something like that, something like that. It's that sort of word. So for this grown man on the opposing side to say, close down that preto is a horrible thing, and it could leave a child distraught. Corinthians wore Luis Eduardo's name on their shirts in solidarity in their game against Goiás a few days later, and he received videos of support from players such as Gabriel Jesus, Neymar, Santos. The club that nurtured Neymar have even offered him trials. All right, so basically this kid right here, he was left in tears because the opposing team's coach kept telling his players to shut the preto down, right, which is a negative. So this professional team, they wore his name in support and solidarity. So this is something that's not new. This is not a one-off. These brothers understand it. Then it's something that's part of the culture. Here's another one. And this is very interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about Venezuela, right? So you guys might remember Hugo Chavez, right? He was like the arch enemy of George Bush for a while. You know, axis of evil, blah, 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 blah. Here's something you probably didn't know, that there is a crisis going on in Venezuela. Why is that? Well, because about 50% of the population has African roots. And they've been kind of living in a situation where they've been oppressed by the elite. Okay. When Hugo Chavez was elected in 1998, he basically upset that thing, you know, and, you know, they always try to pretend as though either the black people aren't there or they try to marginalize them. So let's look at this. Let's start with the beauty queens. While the majority of Venezuelans identify as black, indigenous, or mestizo, which means mixed race, the country's beauty queens invariably conform to white ideals of beauty. The organizers of the country's most important beauty pageant has stated that black women are not pretty because their noses are too wide and their lips too thick. Afro hair is commonly referred to as bad hair, or as they say in Spanish, pelo malo. And so, you know, clearly that's prejudice, that's racist, that's bigoted. And see, these are, again, right, if half the population is of African descent, and then they have these as their beauty queens, that kind of lets you know, where they're coming from. You know, there's some anti-black sentiments in it. The aesthetics and values have political, cultural, and economic counterparts. In the mid-19th century, several Latin American governments implemented whitening policies along with ideological lines laid out in books such as Facundo, Civilization and Barbarism. Large scale European migration was once promoted for the improvement of the race. In other words, they had a lot of black folks there, so they start bringing in Europeans because they wanted to whiten up the race. Okay, so, you know, but either way, to cut to the chase, now that Chavez died, you know, some of the people who were in charge, some of the white Latinos, they want to go back to the way things were. And so they're running into opposition from the black and the brown and the poor people who are like, oh, no. And so you got problems there because of that. You see what I'm saying? But again, the whole point of this is to point out that racism does exist. I think I'm laying it out there for you guys to get. You know, racism and the state of violence in Venezuela today. This is an article from 13 October 2020. You know, and it's prevalent. All right. Now, again, I wouldn't say it's as bad as Alabama or Mississippi, or some of those places like that, but it's there, you know. It's more, I would not, there is racism, because racism is the use of, you know, basically when you can dictate where a person can live, you know, where they can work, where they can go to school, you know, what kind of jobs they have. That's more than just prejudice and bigotry. You see what I'm saying? So in a situation like that, this is something you want to acknowledge. So if you got a bunch of wealthy black men coming down here to these South American countries where they have their own status quo, then you know, that's going to begin to upset things. And so you guys want to be aware of that. Now, this is an article that I had the other day from Black Perspectives, and this is not another country. This is actually Puerto Rico, which is a territory of the United States. Puerto Ricans have citizenship. You know, they come and go. There's not a whole lot of them here in the United States. Only 3.1 million, mostly focused in the upper Northeast. But again, in Puerto Rico, much like the rest of Latin America, anti-Black racism is embedded in the very denial of its existence by the state and society. Additionally, the taken for granted notion that we are all mixed works as a strategy to invisibilize Black people and their demands for justice, all the while upholding likeness of white skin and whiteness as unmarked, normal, and the universal social category. Basically, what they're saying is we're just going to pretend like they're not here, we pretend like they're invisible, and that in itself is racism. Now, a lot of Puerto Ricans have been coming to my page, and you're welcome to come to my page, and I'm going to open up the chat line, and I want you guys to come on in and we can talk about it. But for the most part, you know, proving my point, you know, there was a survey that said 2017 survey about perceptions of race in Puerto Rico. We found that among respondents who define themselves as evidently Black, they are labeled as Black by self or others. 71% reported that they experienced racism in Puerto Rico. Okay. How or where? They said 3 top answers were in employment, media, and school. And of course, this should be concerning because this is more systematic. This is not just some guy calling your name riding down the street. This is more systematic. So when Latin American folks say that they don't have racism in their country and we're all one big happy family, or when they say stuff like, we don't have any Black people in the country. That's just not true, and we need to begin to address that, especially more you Black men are going to be traveling down there. That's the thing. If you're going down there, you should know what to expect. Now, again, I come from the philosophy that this whole world belongs to you. You're free to do what you want to do in this world. You go where you want to go. But you should be aware of what you're dealing with before you get there so you can act accordingly. So that being said, what's going to happen, right, when you Black men, well-trained, not going to be a whole lot of you, but you got money, you're well-trained, you run across this racism, this colorism, really. And again, we're not talking about, Bull Connor, Alabama, 1950 racism. That's not what we're talking about here. Now, of course, there's always going to be some tension, moving in, but you're going to upset the status quo, because they got rich people down there, but the amount of wealthy Black men that we have is a whole different level. So what I want to do is I want to kind of give you guys a metaphor here. This is my boy, Roman. You guys know Roman. He was about 9 years old at the time. We down in the Dominican Republic. Now, you guys know that I spent a lot of money training Roman and training his brother in martial arts, shooting, throwing knives, hatchets, basically how to defend themselves and how to prosecute and attack when necessary using whatever forms of weaponry or their hands is available. Now, this other young boy, he's what we would consider, he's mixed, and his dad was white, his mom was a Dominican woman. And, he's at this point almost a black belt. Roman was only a purple belt. And what happens there is oftentimes the darker skinned children come from a poor class of people. So they don't have the time or the money, their parents, to send them to training. They might go now, they might stop. Roman has been training martial arts since he was 4 years old. He has the confidence of his father. He knows who he is. And, he's a man, and he walks differently. He's not like those other Black children who are there, you see. And so I believe this young man here is not used to running across Black children like Roman. Similarly, these folks that you guys encounter when you come down there with your millions of dollars and you start buying houses and businesses, and, they're not going to be used to Black men like yourself. So, this is a metaphor for what I think is going to happen. Yeah. Now, what you're gonna see in a minute is the sensei is like, "Hey, you know, you're making me look bad out here, man. You know, you gotta do what I taught you. You know, why? Because you got a 9-year-old and you 13 and he's all in you. You see what I'm saying?" The little fella shrugs his shoulders, like, what do I do with this guy? I get it.
Roman, watch.
Now at this point, since he's coaching him, I'm taking it up on myself to, you know, tell Roman what I would like to see him do, because, you know, you shouldn't be coaching your student in the middle of a fight. And it's not, you know, in my opinion, it's not appropriate. I'm not going to say anything. Nobody was showing my boys any favoritism. But,
Roman, no more wild kicks. No wild kicks. He's catching it.
Yeah.
Counter punch. There you go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Follow up. 3 punch.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Now get out of there.
Yeah. So
there you go. Counter punch. 1, 2, 3.
And so he's saying he's doing the exact thing I'm telling you to do. You see what I mean?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good job. Good job. Good point.
Roman did exactly what he was telling the kid to do. Block that and then go back in for the counter attack.
There you go. Good job, Roman. 1, 2, 3. Bop, bop, bop. And get out. Side step. Good job. Side step. There you go. Side step. Don't back up. Good job, Roman. Good job.
All right. So I was very proud of Roman that day, you know. And the other kid is like, I can't believe this, man, you know. Yeah. So I was very proud of Roman that day because he held his own. He made his family look good. You know, I'm proud of him. You know, but the thing is, he's had the training, the education, and resources to be excellent. Much the same as many of you black men. And on top of that, if you can make it out of America as a black man, there's pretty much not anywhere in the world that you can't make it. You know, it's just because it's hard here. It's extremely difficult here. That's why a lot of people come to the United States from overseas thinking it's paved in gold and they fail. And that's unfortunate. But, you know, the thing is, I've gotten a lot of responses from folks here. I got this one guy named Music Only. And let's see, this is one of his posts. He said, you're going to end up as that guy in Puerto Rico and Colombia, Co. Keep coming. I guess that's the veil threat. But this is what else he said. And he said, take them to Liberia. And my response was, basically his point was, why are you, you know, what happens in Puerto Rico is business of Puerto Ricans, you know? And I'm like, my response to him was pretty clear. I said, those Africans in Puerto Rico are my people. So it is my business. Now, what are you going to do about stopping me from dealing with it? You know, and he said, give me your address. And, you know, I said, sure, I love, because he said, give me your address. He wants to challenge me to a boxing match. And I said, sure, I love boxing and jiu-jitsu, so I'll do better than that. Here's my email address, sperlingdennis@gmail.com. So music only account. Feel free to email me at sperlingdennis@gmail.com. I will fly you. I'll fly you into Houston. I'll pay for your hotel and flight. And we can have an 8-round boxing match. We can hold a match at Reverend Ray Martin's gym in 3rd Ward, Houston, Texas. Whenever I receive the email with your information, I'll book the flight and I look forward to the match. And then I said this, of course, is, and I welcome you to that. You want to challenge me to a boxing match, you feel that strongly about it, I invite that. I think that's a very good way to resolve conflict. Nice, good, hard fight. There's nothing wrong with that. I would enjoy that. I think it's a beautiful thing when men can work their issues out in a constructive manner in a boxing ring or, something like that. And I enjoy it. I think it's a beautiful thing, and we should get back to that instead of, insulting each other on the internet, which I don't do. So music only account, you're welcome. I'd love to have you come down to Houston. I will treat you with great respect. And, I enjoy boxing. I enjoy the physicality of it. I've been training for about 11 years now, and it'd be great to have you come down, and you can tell me all about your anti-black beliefs, i.e., go back to Liberia. But then he also said, go back. I said, as far as taking my Black people to Liberia, I will make sure I post this comment for Black Americans to see the next time a hurricane destroys Puerto Rico, and you all are calling for help because of racism. Maybe if you stop being racist and colorist to my Black, dark-skinned Puerto Ricans, you would be in a better position to complain about racism directed towards you by white folks. FYI, you're not white. Now, I haven't yet to hear a response other than you're going to end up as that guy in Puerto Rico or Colombia. But, I look forward to music. Only account, you're welcome to come down, and you can have a great time in the boxing ring. It's something I enjoy doing. I think it's a wonderful sport. I find boxing to be invigorating. It brings out the blood. But here's some things I want you guys to think about. If you're a Black man and you're traveling overseas, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the line. I'd like to get what you guys have to say about this. And look, I don't want you to be discouraged about traveling. I just want you to know what's out there. Okay. I want you to know what you're getting into. Again, I've never had an issue. I've always enjoyed myself. The people, whether it's been Colombia, whether it's been, Belize, Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Brazil, I've always had a wonderful time. Everybody's always been so respectful and kind. And, but this is just something that we have to address. Again, many of these folks are of African descent. And so it's almost silly for them to be racist, because it's like, okay, which one of your ancestors are you racist against? But they are colorists, unfortunately, and they do show light skin privilege and colorism, and that's unfortunate. But, the only reason that's going to present a problem to you is because you Black men are going to upset the status quo. So how you should operate when you're entering or moving in foreign countries, and this is not just on a vacation, this is when you decide to move there. What are your living conditions going to be? Okay. If you're down there and you're in love and you got a wife, you should definitely do what they do, move in with the family. You should become one with the family. You should follow the family traditions. Typically, there'll be a patriarch and a matriarch. You should just blend in. Again, you're going there to absorb the culture, learn the language, and you're looking for a more tranquil and better life. So that's something that you should do. Move in with the family. If you get married, that's typically how they live. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be like that the whole time. But for the most part, get to know people, make ties, go to family events, learn the language, learn names, generally be respectful and be kind, as you would with any family, and as far as if you're going down there and let's say business or something like that, you should definitely get yourself in a gated community, or get yourself in a situation where you have security downstairs and whatnot, because you're not from there. You don't know the ins and outs. You don't know the politics of the city. You don't know the politics of the area. So what you want to have is a security guard there. And pretty much that'll provide some level of security for you. As you get to know yourself, and the more time you get, the more you learn. You'll blend in just like everybody else. Now, as far as politics, man, let me tell you something. Caribbean politics, South American politics, Central American politics. I mean, my God, my advice to you guys is just don't even get involved in it. Don't get involved in it. Leave it alone. Leave that there for the locals. At the end of the day, you're an American. Keep your American citizenship. If you need to, support both sides. All right. Get to know the cops, the captains, the politicians, the officials. If it's run by military, get to know them. And when I say get to know them, make friends before you need them. Okay, what does that mean? That means, cash is king. You want to donate, make friends. How do you make a friend? You give money. If you come down there, you got money, you make sure you make friends. You make sure that that you show them the respect that they deserve, because this is their country. And if you're moving there, you're still a guest in their country. You're new there. So you want to show them the respect that they deserve. This is their country. You're moving from the US to this country, to their country. So whether it's Colombia, Brazil, Dominican Republic, and even Puerto Rico, which is a territory, you still want to show respect to people. You want to, and then also you want to get to know the cops, the politicians, the officials, whoever it is you might need. You never know. As far as relationships, it's one thing to go down there and play. You're down there hanging out with the chicas. All right, I get it. But when it's time to settle down and get married, fellas, you want to make a wise decision, because marriage is a contract. Marriage is a business, right? So you want a solid woman, right? You don't want just some fly-by-night woman. You don't want that. That's a waste of time. Why would you go all the way down there to another country just to end up with a low-life woman who's been, out and about? I mean, if she's for the streets, she's for the streets. And that's not the type of woman that you want to be with. Okay, period. You don't want that type of woman, right? And see, if you link up with that type of woman, it'll make you look like a joke to the locals, and it'll lower your standards. You see what I mean? It'll lower your status to them. They'll think he's hooking up. They know who she is. They can tell by how she looks whether or not she was out there working the streets. And that's not somebody you want to link up with. You're a middle class man, you're upper middle class man, you're wealthy. You don't want to hook up with some kind of street chick. That's not cool. You're doing yourself a disservice. Find your nice school teacher. Find a doctor, find a professor, find a lawyer, find an elite level, a real estate agent. Find a woman like that. Okay, what you don't want to do is hook up with a no good woman that you don't want that. All right. So just keep that in mind. All right. You guys who are waiting, I'll be with you in a minute. I want to finish this presentation. I'll be right there. So just hang in there for a minute. Okay. So make sure you get a quality woman. You want a nice quality type woman, not just any old woman. All right. And here's another thing. When you deal with this woman, you want to be an asset to her family. Okay. Because in South American countries, Central America, most Latin American countries, it's not about the individual, it's about the family. And so you want to be an asset to the family. You want to show respect to the fathers. You want to show respect to the mothers. You want to be an asset to your brother-in-laws and all the men in the family. You want to, if you have some type of employment situation where you have a business, then what you want to do is what? You want to employ the men of the family. You want to become an asset to the family. You want to become an asset to the men, because what are you doing? You're creating loyalty and ties, because You're looking out. You're coming in and you're bringing something to the family. Because remember, it's not about the individual in these Latin American countries. It's about the family. So you want to be an asset to the family. That's with anything. You want to help out when you can. You want to do what you can. Remember, you're in their country. You're being absorbed into their culture. This is the type of person. Hopefully you're there because you want a better culture. And if that's the case, then that's a better culture, generally speaking, right? So the other thing you want to do when you do decide to have children, make sure your kids have their American citizenship, because it's that status that's going to give them the privilege that they need to compete with the privilege that the colorism grants those who are closest to white or whatever, right? And then also make sure your children speak English. And, you know, they have international schools you can send them to. They have private schools you can send them to, but you should speak English around the house so that your children can speak English. And hopefully you'll be able to bring them to the United States once they get their citizenship, if they're born there, you know, and that, but that's the way you want to do it. As far as business, what you want to do is you want to employ front men. I know there's a hotel here in Houston where it's owned by some Black folks, and they have white folks as the manager, general manager, and working at the front desk. And that's a smart decision because it's a lot of white people that patronize that hotel. So you want to put the locals as the front men. You want to put the locals, men and women, in charge, right? You want to do that because you look like everybody else. Remember, you're there to make money. You're not there to broadcast. You're not there to stunt, show off. You're there to make money. So you want to definitely do that. And it also creates loyalty and stability. And you got locals in there. They'll be able to deal with the people there better than you can, right? You don't ever want to put yourself in a situation where you arise in a conflict and you can't deal with it because you know, that's local business, right? And here's another thing I need you to do. Make sure you got several lawyers on deck. You got real estate lawyers, criminal lawyers, family law lawyers, whatever kind of employment lawyers, whatever lawyers you need. You want to already have created a relationship with them so that they know you, keep them on retainer. Anytime you have a problem, you let a lawyer do it. I don't care if it's a rental dispute or an employee dispute, you got a lawyer for that. You know, you want to have lawyers like people got, I don't know, repairmen to come deal with the house. If you're down there in business, even if you're just there for a family, you want to make sure you have those sort of connections. And if you need that sort of stuff, give me a call, or you can email me at sperlingdennis@gmail.com. Pretty much wherever you go in the world, you know, I got friends, and so I can hook you up. Now, as far as how to move, man, what does that mean, how to move? You got to move slow, you know, because if you start moving too fast, you come off as ambitious, and it seems like you come off as threatening. You see what I mean? You gotta move slow. You gotta operate. You gotta peep the scene out. Sometimes it's not always about how fast you get the business done. It's about how you do the business to get it done. Recently, there was a gentleman down in Colombia, and he's been trying to buy a house, and he ended up drawing a lot of attention to himself, and he ended up getting, you know, drawing the ire of the wrong people, and he lost his life. I don't think that was racism. I think it had more to do with, you know, power and people coming in here. This is the gentleman we talked about the other night. I don't want to revisit that, but the bottom line is, man, move slow. You know, remember, if you're gonna be there for the rest of your life, it's no rush. Move slow, show respect, and above all, learn the language. If you're in Brazil, learn Portuguese. If you're in one of the Spanish-speaking Latin American countries, learn Spanish. You know, but again, your mere presence is going to upset the status quo. The mere presence of your children is going to upset the status quo. So recognize it. So you want to move in, be cool. You're going to have money, you have nice cars, you have a beautiful home, you probably have a beautiful wife and a beautiful life. But I want you guys to learn to blend in. You're not there to change. What you do is you're there to fit in. And now, of course, change will come by your mere presence. So that's my thoughts on that. We got a couple of people here I want to give a shout out to before we get started. Let me see here. Shout out to Tony. Thank you so much. Shout out to Blizz. Shout out to Lee. Let me see who else. Shout out to Randall. Shout out to all these folks who contributed to the Super Chat, Cash App, and the PayPal. Here's the thing, folks. You got to become a member. You know, I'm not going to I have membership set up for a reason, because you know, you got to become a member. You want to comment on topics like this, you burning to say something, you itching it, you got to become a member if you want to. You know, if you want to participate in these conversations, either you contribute to the super chat, the Cash App, or the PayPal, or you become a member, and in that way you can freely discuss these matters. But anyway, man, we got my man Hannibal, Art, and Royce. Let me see, we got to do a little soul check real quick. Hold on a minute. No Cupcake, what's happening? Unmute yourself. No Cupcake, unmute yourself.
Yeah, it's triple black, but I just sent you a Cash App, man. Hey, appreciate what you do, man. No
I
doubt,
appreciate
man.
that too, man. I appreciate that
Yeah,
too.
man.
Now, yeah, no
No,
problem.
this is a very relevant topic, man. And especially, I've
Yeah.
been listening to a lot of these spaces, and what is really, I've come to the realization that as in America, I don't know what has caused it, but a lot of these women, especially in our community, are chasing Superman or the alpha seed, and they're making every excuse not to, I guess, not to be with the run of the mill man. So in essence, we almost don't even have no choice. But if we want to keep us kind of going, because you know this 1% or this top 10 upper echelon thing is almost the standard for whether they're 300 pounds or 200 pounds,
Wow.
and it's crazy. I mean, it's just I
Well,
don't know
yeah.
how this has happened, but
Well, see,
they're all
you
chasing this alpha seed, and they're
you
not
know,
settling for anything else but that.
well, yeah, you know, well, see, and I had a very important conversation yesterday, right? Whoa, my God! Shout out to Christina Jones. Christina Jones, she says, amazing conference. Thank you, Christina Jones. This is an amazing $150 Cash App, man. Now the ladies is, you know what? Let me tell you. Let me take a point of privilege real quick. No Cupcakes. So the ladies support this channel financially, damn near as much as some of the fellas do. We got some couple of guys in here like Volcanus and some of you other guys, man. But man, these ladies, they really appreciate this content. So you know, I need you guys, man. I do this for the brothers because I want to give hope to you guys. Because see, here's the thing: smart women, they realize men like me will make better black men. Period. And most of y'all ain't going nowhere. Most of y'all gonna stay here. You see what I'm saying? Um, and so they realize, oh wow, they need a brother like that. Somebody's calm. I'm not telling you to go out and beat nobody and be disrespectful. I'm telling you to be respectful wherever you are, get your education, get your money. Most of the smart ladies know that that's going to be in their best interest. You see what I'm saying? So shout out to you, Christina. You are welcome to come on this show anytime, baby girl. Christina Jones, you in the house. Look, no Cupcake Zone. You skipped the line. We're going to go to Hannibal, then Art, then Royce. But the first thing we're gonna do is a little troll check. What's up, Luigi? How you doing? Unmute yourself.
I'm all right, sir. I'm not a troll. I do want to keep it real a bit, though.
No problem. Okay, give me a minute. We're gonna go to Hannibal, and then with Art, and then we'll go to Royce, and then you up last. I want to make sure we get everybody in the order. No Cupcake, i.e. Triple Black, he cut the line a little bit, so I'm gonna rename him Triple Black. But anyway, man, Hannibal, how you doing, man?
Hi, Dennis. How are you? Can you hear me?
It's always good to hear you, man. You know, I have to be your interpreter because you come over here with that high English from London. You know what I mean? And brothers, we're Americans, and I'm like, man, okay, this is what he said. But anyway, man, welcome back. What are your thoughts on this conversation today? And here's the thing I want you to understand. And I know you understand this because you're in London and you're from Africa, and I know there's racism there. There's racism everywhere, you know, and the racism that exists in South America, in Central America, and the Caribbean, it really doesn't make sense because many of them have African ancestry. So it's really more of a colorism. It's that old school, oh, that boy hair nappy, that girl hair is nappy. It's that sort of stuff that's kind of been institutionalized. You see what I'm saying? It's not Alabama racism. It's not Mississippi racism, but it is bigotry nonetheless and prejudice. So either way, man, it's always good to have you back. Talk to me, man. Give us some of your wisdom.
So you'll know in your country, depending on the state or the city, that your life as a black man will be different. And the key component of that will be the population of other black men. So, for example, in Texas, your
Yeah.
experiences are going to be different than if you were in Wisconsin, for
Right.
example. Your
Yeah.
experiences in New York City are going to be different than if you're living in rural Connecticut or Boston. So we can observe that the density and the population of other black people affects your experiences for several reasons. Simply because when there's a critical mass, you have people to back you and
Right.
people to support you. And that takes me to the two things I wanted really to raise, and they're more questions than anything,
Mhm.
because really I like to listen. I don't normally like to call because I just want to absorb the teaching. I encourage all my brothers just to listen more than they speak, so that they can become wise and absorb wisdom. But I just wanted to raise these 2 points, and the first one would be the theme of the last couple of shows has been about risk. So I know in the a couple of weeks back, you've done lots of great episodes, and so you can imagine brothers getting excited about all these opportunities.
Mhm.
But then, as always, there are dangers, and so this week, kind of the theme has been about the dangers. And if you go blind, not knowing about your environment, not being aware of these things, there can be tragic consequences. And so, my question is, given the trend and that increasing numbers of brothers from your country and worldwide are looking to travel, are looking to immigrate,
Mhm.
is to what extent can risk be mitigated if instead of going kind of like as Sigmas, lone wolves, one or two brothers or three brothers who think alike, what if they got together and explored these places together? Because I think when you're anybody alone is an easy target.
Right.
In any instance of physical violence, I mean, even if you can handle yourself, in any instance of escalation or physical violence, there's always a reflexive pineal calculation of can I get away with this? How many people that are there, etc. For example, there's certain states in your country I wouldn't drive alone. I'd want to be around people. So the question is, can brothers mitigate that risk by simply getting together? The internet has made it possible for people to connect and
Uh,
find like-minded people. Can brothers get together and
mhm.
mitigate those risks by traveling in packs? Because to attack two or three isn't like taking one brother out and the body's burnt or buried somewhere. Nobody knows what's happening. Even just the risk that there might be witnesses will
Right.
be attackers. And to take that even broader, obviously, I want to get your perspective. It's a question, not necessarily a diktat, but to take that further, there was a very interesting comment in one of I think the last two or three videos. It was basically someone asked what happened if 10,000 brothers from the USA went to one of these Caribbean countries and tried to establish a base. And so
Mhm.
that goes into from I mean the advice you've been giving in this episode about personal power into kind of group power, because as an individual you're always limited in what you can achieve, but as a group you're more powerful. So the recent conviction of this cop Derek Chauvin, it could not have been achieved by an individual acting alone, but as a group you're unstoppable. So my question is there potential to exploit this growing tendency of black men traveling to create a movement where brothers can back each other up so that there's now a power dynamic? So let's say you move to a town in Colombia when there are, let's say, half a dozen of you well established with businesses. You're not an easy target as if you were one person and you could disappear somewhere and they could blame it. I don't know. The classical thing in Africa is a plane crash. I don't know what they use in South America. You drowned or something. So that's just some questions to raise. That's all I
All right.
wanted to say. Really.
So I'm gonna summarize this. You got to turn your YouTube off. I appreciate it. Uh, but you don't mute yourself, Hannibal. Now the second question was how do we uh, basically work together and capitalize our safety, and how do we come together and basically harness power if we go in groups? And the first question, if you could just summarize it again, first question was what?
Can brothers mitigate individual risk by
Okay.
taking these trips in twos or threes.
Okay. So when you say mitigate risk, are they going on vacation? Or are they going to set up shop?
As you suggest, before setting up shop,
Okay.
there's a scoping period. So it's more that when you're scoping and exploring.
So the first thing I would suggest is this, that you probably need to start understanding the culture. Before that, you want to understand the language, because the language unlocks the keys to the culture. You should go visit. If you plan on moving to a country, you should probably visit that place no less than 5 times over a 3 or 4 time limit. You shouldn't just move there outright. You should get to know to make sure this is the type of place you want to go. And then also make friends. There are friends that are going to come organically, and then there are friends that are going to come around because you do business with them. Your real estate agent, the person that finds your apartment, the lawyer, their friends, the bartender, these sort of people. You want to be able to, you want to ask questions, you want to get to know people. And so basically, it's just like a military campaign. You're doing your recon earlier on. You want to investigate the LZ, see what's happening, figure out who's going, where you should go, and where you should not go. Then you want to be able to do your own research on the internet. Okay, that's a bad neighborhood. I don't want to go there. And figure out what your objectives are going to be down there. Now, if you're going down to Colombia to, I don't know, cut wood, work in the rainforest, great. You want to open a shop, great. You want to understand what that market is going to be. You're going down there because you found a woman that you love. That's probably an easier. That can happen a lot easier. But the thing is, you want to do, and this is for anybody, right? You want to establish your power base. Now, because you are in a foreign country, it's no different than when I moved to a different town. First thing I do is link up with somebody who's powerful and influential in that town. Okay, whether it's a judge, a politician, the mayor, the assistant, somebody who knows somebody. And then you link up with them and you make that person become your friend. How do you do that? Well, cash is king, right? If you got a local constable that's running, give them money. I support you. I appreciate everything you do. Money, no strings attached. I do it because I appreciate what you're doing. And it shows respect, and it shows that you appreciate who this person is and what they're trying to do. That's how you handle that, right? And then you replicate that. It shows. So now you're friends with the police captain. You're friends with the local politicians, the mayors, the constables. They know you, okay? This is a person who's planning on setting up business and setting up shop. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a lot, but this is how people operate. Now, of course, in America, we have laws against this sort of stuff, but in South America, Central America, cash is king. Everybody operates within a certain structure. You see what I mean? And then you simply replicate that. The more men you come, you make sure, hey, look, this is my buddy from Canada. This is my buddy from New York. This is my buddy from California. You introduce them. You make sure that they know that you're an asset to them. So you got somebody on your side in case something happens. Because if you get in a fight or an argument with anybody in one of these foreign countries, it's all of them against you, no matter what. They're always, even if your wife or your girlfriend sparks up something with you, trust, they're going to be on her side more than your side. So you're going to have your friends bought and paid for before you get there. Does that make sense, Hannibal?
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. You basically, you garner your power. You want to be able to make a phone call or make a text message to get what you need. You want the person who shows up to punish you to be your friend. You want the person who shows up to punish you to work for your friend that you've already paid. You see what I'm saying? That's how you want to operate. You basically, man, you use that American dollar, you use that Western money, that Western ingenuity, and the bigger your footprint is going to be in that location, the more friends you want to have. And that's why I'm saying and if you got the money to move to another country, you should have the money to be able to protect yourself. You see what I mean? But as far as risk, and I wanted to bring this up, police violence is the leading cause of death for young men in the United States over their life course, and about 1 in every 1,000 black men can expect to be killed by the police. 1 in 1,000. Isn't that amazing? Risk of being killed by the police. So what does that mean? That's 1% in 1,000. And if there's 22 million black men in America, look at that. That's an astronomical number. You see what I'm saying? That's an astronomical. So 1 in 1,000 black men can expect. Isn't that crazy? So when we talk about risk, it's still riskier here in the United States, right? You're much better off. So that's why I tell you brothers that, you know, if you can deal with this they got going on here in the U.S., you can deal with anything. But in the meantime, man, Royce J has been waiting, and then we're going to go to Luigi and then Art. So thank you so much, Hannibal. You have anything else you want to add before I go to Royce?
No, I just got my calculator out. So that means out of 22 million, it'll be 22,000 brothers killed.
Isn't that something? 22,000 black men are going to get killed by the police. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an epidemic,
peacetime as well, in a peacetime nation.
In a peacetime nation, yeah. So that's more people that got killed in Desert Storm, 2 or 3 times more. So in the meantime, thank you, Hannibal. I'm going to go to Royce, and you guys, if you appreciate this conversation, make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. Royce J is up, and then Luigi. Royce, what are your thoughts on this conversation?
Hey, ¿qué es lo que? ¿Qué es lo que? ¿Cómo estás, primo?
I'm good, Royce. How are you today?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Hey, my thoughts on the conversation. First of all, thanks for having me on the panel.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your work. And we talked before. I am half of my family is from different places in the Caribbean, and the other half is what you would consider ADOS from the States. So I tend to have my feet in both in both sides. And one thing I can't stress enough, and I see that you also stress it, is learning the language.
Right. It's a sign of respect to learn people's language. Like, if you come to the United States, you should learn English. Likewise, if you go move to Brazil, you should learn Portuguese. If you move to a Spanish-speaking country, you should learn Spanish. If you move to Germany, you should learn German. It's a sign of respect and admiration for the culture. See, by not learning the language, it's almost like you're rejecting the place that you are. Now, I've done my best to learn Spanish, and because I spend a lot of time there, and I don't want to be the one always looking down on my phone, asking people, well, you know, do you understand? And I'm looking at them, and they're looking at me like, why are you in my country and you don't even speak my language? It's almost a point of disrespect. So that's why, out of respect, and to me, respect is important. It's one of the most important things you can give to another person, another culture, especially if you're in their country. So yeah, that's important. But go ahead, and that unlocks the keys to the culture. But go ahead, Royce. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Don't worry about it. I mean, it's your platform. But in learning la idioma del país, of the country that you go to, you also want to learn the dialect, because the dialects are going to be different depending on what country you're in. Words that mean one thing in one country will mean something entirely different
Right.
in another country. So learning that will keep you from saying something inadvertently that is disrespectful or that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know, and I can give you an example of that when I had my house in the Dominican Republic, and then I had my apartment in Bogota. What I found is that, I mean, I would get off the plane and I would have to be, the way I communicated with people would be a lot different. Like, for instance, in Bogota, they're very conservative. Their idioma, their language is a lot more formal. In places like the Dominican Republic, they're a lot more lax, laid back. But it's an island.
It's very almost like a patois within Spanish.
Right, but you have to speak. You know, you don't want to speak over people, and that you don't want to. Right. I'm here saying ustedes and these sort of things, and they may not. They might take offense to that. You know, in the Dominican Republic, because it's more laid back. Like, what are you trying to talk down to me? So you want to conform. You want to show people respect wherever you are, and I think that's one of the most important things that we should do. You know, and you know, most black men, we don't have egos. We don't have that typical, you know, white. You know, I'm from Alabama. You know, I'm better than you, white. You know, pickup truck driving Confederate flag ego when it comes to people of other colors. And we generally see people of other colors as our brother and sister. Unfortunately, you know, some of these anti-Black stories that we're hearing coming out of Latin America, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, is causing Black people to look at this situation differently. Why? Because we often see Puerto Ricans here in the United States being subject to anti-Puerto Rican racism perpetuated on them by white folks. And then I remember it was a year ago, so a young Puerto Rican woman had her Puerto Rican flag in the park, and some racist or some bigoted white guy came up on her and was very insulting to her. And there was a lot of Black people, Black Americans, that came to her aid. Now, my question is, what's going to happen if Black Americans come to the determination that many of these, not many, not all, but there's a strand of anti-Black racism that creases through the culture of some of these Latin American countries, of which their countrymen are coming to the United States? Are we going to still be open to them and patronize them and still look at them as brothers and sisters? Or are we going to treat them like we've come to treat some other members of other groups, you know? And what I'm trying to do is just talk about it ahead of time to put it in perspective. Yes, there is colorism. No, it's not as bad as that Alabama stuff, you know? So let's not go, you know, because see, Black Americans are the front line of racism in America. And if there's going to be another group of people coming to this country who are racist, they're going to have to deal with us. And we've been dealing with white folks for the past 402 years. And we're very good at dealing with racism. And we have very effective ways. And see, here's the thing, like my Puerto Rican friends, I try to explain to them, like, you guys are only 3.1 million people. That's 3,100,000 of y'all here in the United States. And most of y'all are focused in the United States. Anything that we get, you guys benefit from it. We're 45 million. Anything we get, you benefit from it. The Hispanic, Mexicans, the mestizos from Mexico and South America and Central America, they have a kind of different relationship with the Colombian, with the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans. Here, you got to make a choice. And see, what they don't realize is the white folks are always going to be the same. The Black folks pretty much will let you in, you see? But if you don't have a refuge with Blacks, then you don't have a refuge at all. And it's just all 350 million of us, and you don't have a house to live in. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's important that, you know, that we try to have this conversation and to be done in a constructive manner before, you know, things get blown out of proportion. Because you got a lot of people out here who are now voicing this anti-Black racism that exists in Latin countries, and they're not as nice as I am. But anyway, man, Royce, thank you so much. I want to get to Luigi, then Art, then Ronnie Mo. All right, hold on a minute, Luigi. Luigi, unmute yourself, please. Welcome to the show. What do you have to add to the conversation?
How you doing today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm all right. Forgive me for not choosing the kindest words or beating around the bush, but
we don't curse. Just don't curse. But go ahead.
Okay. I have to say that you don't, in my opinion, have standing to be calling people racist. It's hypocritical because, to me, you have displayed clear anti-white bigotry and racism.
What's your definition of racist?
My general definition of racism is mistreating another person based upon their race or devaluing them on their race. But can I bring up the example of it?
Well, yeah. Well, I want to establish what you define as racism first, because my definition of racism and yours may be different. You may have a definition of racism that is more akin to bigotry and prejudice. My definition of racism has to do with the systematic oppression of one group over another by in determining where they live, where they stay, where they vote, whether or not they can use certain public accommodations, how much they get paid, their imprisonment. I am definitely not a member of the class that would be considered in power here in the United States. So you and I have a different definition of racism. So I wanted to establish what your definition of racism is. Here in this country, it is typically white Anglo-Saxons and that Protestant. They are the ones in the highest social class. They have the monetary means to impose their will on other races. And there was a time when that same group of people imposed their will on Italians, Irish, and whatnot, because they weren't considered part of the group. They only became white in the 1950s. So, you know, I think you and I think I have a more complicated definition of racism than you do. But that said, please continue.
Yeah, I don't think that's an accurate definition of racism. I have done
that's the racism in the book. That's what that's how the dictionary defines.
I have done okay. Can I talk, or you want to keep interrupting me?
Well, I'm just go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So I have done an hour-long video where I took the definition of racism. I was trying to see what is racism, and several of the definitions had to be discounted because they simply weren't incoherent. But having said that, when we talk about racial equality, or well, essentially, if you want, okay, my view is that any race can be racist. It doesn't have to do with if they're in power or not. It's making another person feel bad or degrading another person because of their race, and that can be done from any race. You could be black and you could be hateful towards whites. You could be Chinese and hateful towards Japanese.
That's a mouthful. And I think we should address that. You're coming from the premise that any person can be racist. Now, are you saying African people, let's say in the country of Nigeria, can be racist, or Uganda can be racist towards the Chinese when they're there visiting? Okay. Yes. I can believe that because they're in charge of the power structure. You see? So if they're in charge of the levers of power, they can determine where you live, where you go, where you travel to, what schools you can go to, where you can work. So in theory, I would agree with you on that.
Well, let's give 2 examples. So I'm a white guy from Southern California. About a year ago, I went to, I think it's called MacArthur Park, and that's a very predominantly Hispanic area, particularly El Salvadorian, etc.
What part of Southern California are you from?
From the LA area. And so when I went there,
if you don't mind, how old are you?
Walking around the park, and
you don't mind me asking how old are you?
I'm sorry, can you let me finish? You keep cutting me off.
If you don't mind me asking, sir.
You don't want to hear my opinion. You're a bigot. You're a bigot.
No. I just want to hear, because I want to know your age.
No, you just want to talk. You just want to be a hypocrite. Adios.
I don't, man. I just wanted to know how old the fella was. So, but either way, thank you so much. It was great. I hope you come back. I really wanted to hear what you had to say. You waited patiently. I just wanted to know how old you were, so I can kind of know. I myself am from California, and I might be able to understand more where you're coming from. I'm familiar with MacArthur Park. I'm familiar with that. So come on back in. Don't be like that. I invite everybody here. I'd love to have you back in. But either way, we'll move on to Art. Art, how you doing? We lost one. It's unfortunate. I'd love to have a young man come back in, but he didn't want to come back in. So either way. What are your thoughts, Art?
That was quite a hard act to follow.
Well, no. See, the thing is, people are uncomfortable talking about race because it brings up some ugly truths. And I understand that. But what I want to do is I don't want to have any misunderstandings and miscommunications. And so people sometimes they want to come on and they just want to talk because they want to get something out. But other people will interpret that the wrong way. So I try to conduct this platform with respect, but I still want to make sure it's understood. If you want to talk, and you should, I guess, do a video or something like that. But some white men are defensive now because there was a time pre-1950s when they could pretty much say whatever they wanted to say, get away, and nobody could say anything, and they had the force of the police. But things are changing, especially in places like California, which is dominated by Hispanics and Asians, and not so much, they're kind of being left out. And white folks are, with the drug issues that they're having and the economy, and many of them been lied to. They've been lied to, and they've been promised this American dream, and then they see black and brown and people of other races that are doing well. And so that's an issue that they have, that they have to work out on their own. But the gentleman's welcome to come back, man. I hope you come back. I don't want you to, feel like you're left out. We enjoy having guests come in here and talk. But either way, Art, the floor is yours. What are your thoughts?
I hope I don't speak out of place on what just happened. Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me?
I cannot hear. I can hear you now.
Okay. I was saying that I hope I don't speak out of turn, but it just seemed
No, you're
like
fine.
it was a case. It seemed like it was a case of changing terms and words for comfort. So
Right.
I hope he gets over
Well,
that. But
well,
the
we
the
don't want
thing.
to,
Oh, go
let's
ahead.
not, everybody's entitled to their opinions. The thing we want to have here is respect. And I want to hear people, but I just want to make sure that we don't have any misunderstandings, or confusion, because his definition of
Hmm.
racism is different than the one that, I think the one that is really what it is, and in theory, yeah, if you are a country of black people and you're oppressing a group of people who are of a different race, that in itself, yeah, that's systematic racism. That's racism. But the other definition of racism is prejudice, bigotry. Prejudice is you prejudge someone, as it sounds. You're prejudging someone before you even see them based on stereotypes and ideals, right? And then you have bigotry, and that's just somebody who just straight up thinks they're better than you. I get it. But in the meantime, look, we got a young man in here who I went and had a conversation with via the post that we had earlier, and I believe he's Puerto Rican. He's here under the moniker of Rican Delphia. And so I want to allow him, you guys, if you don't mind, let Rican Delphia come in here. Rican Delphia, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, you hear me?
Yes, welcome to the conversation. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm
All
Puerto
right.
Rican and Dominican.
Puerto Rican and Dominican. All right. And
Yeah,
you live I'm assuming you live in Philadelphia.
yeah, exactly. I
Okay.
lived all over. I lived, in Philly, New York, in DR, and PR. Right now, I'm in Philly.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I know that this is a very sensitive subject. Okay. I know that a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans specifically, for another reason, they don't really like talking about the colorism that exists in Puerto Rico, generally speaking. But go ahead. I want you to go ahead and talk to us. Tell us a little bit about your perspective, please. I want to hear. I think we all need to hear.
What was the topic again? Like why Latino
Well,
men don't like?
generally speaking, we were talking about Black American moving to Latin American countries. But I believe the other day, you saw a video from the other day when I talked about the young man who was trying to allegedly, he was trying to purchase drugs. And allegedly, he was peeing on the side of the road. And then allegedly, some people then said, hey, cut it out. And allegedly, they hit some people. And the story's not all the way in. But the bottom line is he and his friend end up getting killed. And this has happened in the La Perla community. He ended up getting killed. And it was a big fiasco. And some people were saying, oh, well, this is race related. But the more you look at the facts, it looked more like ego and stupidity. But either way, because the subject came, because this is something that's on Black Americans' minds, like, are they racist? Because we hear about Venezuela, we've heard about Colombia, we hear about some of the things that are happening in Argentina. We hear about the things that are happening in Dominican Republic as to do with the relationship with the Haitians. We hear about all these things. And so we begin to wonder, is this racism? You see? And so this is a question we have. And I brought up an article the other day, and let me know when I've briefed you enough on the conversation that you can pick up. But I brought up an argument the other day
It's kind of
called Black Perspective, which reads this as follows. It says, in a 2017 survey about the perceptions of racism in Puerto Rico, we found that among the respondents who identify themselves as Black, they are labeled as Black by themselves, or others. 71% reported experiencing racism in Puerto Rico. This is amongst Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico who consider themselves Black. And the question was, where did they experience it? Well, the top three answers were in employment, media, and school. And so my thing is, as a Black American, and most Black Americans will agree, it's like we treat Puerto Ricans and Dominicans as our brothers. But if we find out that they have this strand of bigotry and racism in them, the question then is, how is it that we then should respond to you all? Sir?
Are you done? You done?
Yes, sir.
Well, basically, first we gotta understand like why are they moving down there? Why are these Black Americans moving down there? Let's answer that question first, and then
Well, they're moving down there because
as we're
some of them
sitting
like
back,
partying down there. Some of them like having a good time. Some of them are going down there because they found real love. And some of them are going down there for business opportunities because they have money, and that's what people with money do. As I said, 64% of Black men have entered into the middle class. All right, 20% of them are rich. So they have money, they have opportunities, and that's typically what men do when they have money and time on their hands. So that's why they're moving.
right? Well, they're moving to countries, that first of all, like DR sees them as Haitians with money. You know what I mean? So they
Yeah,
see
we
them as
agree.
like,
We agree. That was the point because we understand the social status that Blacks have in the Dominican Republic. So now when you have these Black men who are rich and educated moving to the DR, that's going to upset the social status, isn't it?
okay, but why are they moving to DR?
Well, they're moving
It's
there
just
for
because.
the three reasons I said before. They like to party.
Okay,
They want to hang out with the chicas. Number two, some of them may have found real love, and others are moving there for business. So those are the three reasons.
okay, business. I mean, you could do business anyway. You don't have
Some
to
of them
really
want to
do it
let me do it
in
again. Some of
DR.
them want to party and have a good time. Some of them are retiring. Some of them are there for real love. They found real love, right? And then other ones are there for business. And it might be a
All right,
combination of all. So those are the three main reasons they're moving.
all right. We're gonna get back to that, but even for example, that little what's his name? That young man that got killed in PR.
Okay, yeah, the young man that got, yeah, we talked about him the other day. I said that he was apparently trying to purchase some drug. I don't know. I don't want to get in it. I don't want to, but allegedly he was doing that. And as I said before, some mistakes were made. And, I think it was probably not racist. I can't see the racism or bigotry. I think it was more egos and stupidity and bad moves and poor decisions being made. That's what I
What
think
is
that is.
there's racism like all over the world. You know what I mean? The whole world got anti-black racism, or anti-foreign racism as well. Like
That's
you're a
true.
foreigner and you're black. You don't fit in. Like you're black and you're a foreigner. So that's that. And then you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, and you go into the hood and you think
Mhm.
the hood in Latin America is a lot more dangerous than the hood in America. It's not Chicago, it's not LA, it's not Baltimore.
I
It's a
agree.
lot more dangerous. So you going over there flashing your American products, because everybody down there thinks that gringos, black, white, whatever, you're a foreigner. Everybody thinks that they got money, which is mostly true, and you're easy come up. So you fashion all these, cameras and these cash and all that in the hood, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get robbed.
And wouldn't
And
that be
not only
something
that,
that would happen? Wouldn't that be something that happened if you were in some bad neighborhood in Detroit or Chicago? You ran there flashing your camera, and
exactly,
what happened there, right?
exactly,
And if you
yeah,
decide to
exactly,
start taking pictures of the drug dealer, you might get hurt, right? Especially if they told you not to, right?
exactly. So
And
if it could happen,
if you
if it
drove
could
your
happen,
car and hit somebody's car or something like that, and then you probably would make them angry, wouldn't you?
exactly.
Yeah.
So if
So
it
we
could happen
understand.
in,
We generally understand what happened to the gentleman in PR. Okay, we get that. I'm not at this point. I don't think it's racist. But what I want to talk to you about again is the issues that what issues have you had to deal with here in the United? Are you from Puerto Rico? Were you born in Puerto Rico or DR? Or were you born in Philadelphia?
no, I was born in PR, and then I was
Okay,
raised in
so
DR.
what issues? Most Puerto Ricans don't speak English when they get here. What issues have you had in the United States as far as being an immigrant and being I'm assuming a brown or dark immigrant, a black person? What issues have you had here in the U.S.
Well, I
with
would
racism?
say that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say that like I'm not really white or black, but I'm like in the middle. As you know,
Hmm.
most people from Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, I'm
Hmm.
like, I would say, mixed race, mulatto. That's,
Okay.
accurate term for it. And I would say, like, this is a racist country
Hmm.
from whites and from blacks, but it's different types of racism from them.
And so what I've been trying to explain to my audience, because I don't want them to think this is a black, white, this is Alabama in the 1950s. This is actually more colorism. This is more, oh, you're darker, you're lighter, your hair looks, you got bad hair, you got good hair. You're not as pretty as her. It's not the one drop rule. It's more of like the lighter your skin versus the darker your skin, and then there are shades in between. So
Colorism and racism is the same thing, technically.
well, you can be colorist and be black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be colorist and be black. Racism, again, as I was explaining to the gentleman who came beforehand, is more about the systematic oppression of a group of people because of their ethnicity or race. You see,
Yeah.
your grandma telling you got nappy hair is probably colorist or featurist. The white man telling you you can't have a bank loan or live in this neighborhood in the 1940s was racist. Telling you where you can't go to school and where you can't go to school is racist. Telling you
They
can't
both
use
they
this.
both racist. But there's a difference between racists with power and racists without power.
Well, racism by definition is those with power, because you can't be a racist because racism is a system. It reflects a system of oppression. And I think oftentimes when we begin to speak, we confuse terms. You may be talking about bigotry or prejudice. Technically, colorism is bigotry. You see what I mean? That's what that is. It's a caste system. You see, a lot of people confuse those terms, but they're different words for different reasons because they have different meanings.
It's good. How you doing?
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I do.
Let me give you. I'm gonna give you I want to thank you. But I want to give you. There's a book by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. Okay, it's called somebody give me the word color complex systematic. You should check that out. I think that would be very helpful, because what I found is that a lot of our Caribbean family, you may not be as astute on American racism as many Black Americans are. You know what I mean? So just check that out if you will. I'm sure you'd appreciate it. But I want to go on to thank you so much, Rican, and you're welcome back. Thank you. I appreciate you. Anybody who wants to talk about it, you're welcome to come back. Again, I treat everybody with respect. I want to get the best out of you. And I want that white gentleman to come back in too, because I really wanted to hear what he had to say. I try to cut people off, because when you start throwing words out there, people don't really understand. And, it's just, it confuses people and it's not productive.
So let's go back to that question though.
Which question was that?
The one I said, like, why are they moving down there? You gave
They're
your
moving
opinion
down there
on why.
because they want to party and have a good time with the chicas. They're moving down there because they
that's
found real love, and they're moving down there because they want business. Those are the three main reasons they're moving down.
Okay, let me dissect that real quick. Business, you could do that anywhere in the world. You don't have to, specifically DR or Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
Real love, does that it seems to me like that real love is like fetishism.
Say again, sir. Go ahead.
That real love is really like fetishism. You know what I mean? Like, you want a specific type, you want an exotic, fetish size foreign chick. You know what I mean?
Why did your family move from Puerto Rico to the United States?
That's for economic reasons.
And so you don't think moving from the United States to Puerto Rico can be for economic reasons?
No.
That's what business is.
But
do you know what's happening in Puerto Rico right now? They're trying to get all of the Puerto Ricans out of Puerto Rico. There's a policy by the United States government to get you guys out of there so we can turn that into what Cuba was back in the 1930s. We got
Exactly.
acres and acres of land there on the coast, and if they can just get Puerto Ricans out of there and just keep enough of you there to do labor, right? Keep you uneducated. You know what it's like in Puerto Rico, education.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys are contributing to that in a sense because you
Yes,
guys
we
are with
Yes, we are.
you.
Yes,
So
we are. Because that's what business is about. So when I tell you there's a lot of business opportunities there, that's what I'm talking about.
so you it's like no different from the white man gentrifying the hood.
What's
In
the difference
Bed-Stuy
between the way you treat you all treat dark-skinned Puerto Ricans and the way white people treat dark-skinned black people here in the United States? Tell me the difference. See
Puerto
this
Ricans,
screen right here?
we're more like one. You know what I mean? Dominicans, we're more one.
The
Black
2017
Americans,
survey
white
about
Americans,
perceptions of
that's separated.
racism in Puerto Rico, we found among the respondents, 71% who reported themselves as black experienced racism in Puerto Rico. What's the difference between that going on in Puerto Rico and the racism going on in here in the United States, white on black? What's the difference?
Well, first of all, you're going up news reports. I'm going up living
I got more than
experience.
just one though. I got more than one.
I'm going up living experience. I live there. I got a lot of family
I
members
know,
that are
but your
dark-skinned Puerto
lived
Ricans.
experience doesn't counteract these statistics, these scientific surveys and statistics, brother. You understand what I'm saying? I hear you, but this is what your own people are saying. This is what your own scholars are saying. I did a whole show about this the other day.
Well, Latino racism different than American racism, and it's like less.
Acknowledge that it's different. You guys have a color
Yeah,
cascade. You go from light to dark, but see, just like they do in Venezuela, they try to
not necessarily. It's also about nationality as well.
Reports are saying, bro, are you arguing with the science and the surveys based on your own? You don't even live in Puerto Rico anymore. This is
I
what
visit all the time. I visit all the time, and I visit Dio all the time.
And they treat you like you don't live there because that's the way Puerto Ricans and most folk are. You an American at this point. I'm telling you what the surveys are saying of Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico, and this is what they're saying. You see, this is what they're saying about the country, and I'm okay with listening to the experts. You understand what I'm saying?
So I got a question. Why don't Black Americans go to like Jamaica or Haiti or Africa?
Well, they do go to Jamaica or Haiti, but why don't they go to Puerto Rico as a part of an American territory? Why did you come here? Why didn't you go to Spain? Why didn't you go to Spain?
America's whiter than Spain.
I know, but why didn't you go to Spain, brother? I'm
because
asking
everybody
you.
comes to the whole world goes to America. The whole world goes to America, bro.
Okay, so you're saying the reason that Puerto Ricans go to America is because the whole world goes to America. Okay, I accept
exactly. It's like
fine. So what problem do you, as a Puerto Rican man who lives in America, what problem do you have with black men who aren't Puerto Rican going to Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic? What problem do you have with that?
Well, it's like, economic gentrification for one.
What is economic gentrification?
Well, y'all increasing the prices of shit because y'all really American, even though your skin color is black.
We're really Americans. Yeah, and we're rich. 64% in the middle class, 20% of the men are rich. Yeah, and we're going to increase the price of everything because we have money to do that.
Okay, but do you think that's right to replace the natives?
The price.
Can I ask a question?
Well, no, I want to get it out, but
okay,
please.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Rican. Go ahead, man. And I want you to finish, but there's some other people who want to talk too. But go ahead, Rican.
Well, I was saying that economic gentrification. What else? It's like the promotion of like no morals, like bad morals, like just promoting prostitution and sex tourism.
Prostitution is legal in the Dominican Republic, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. We gotta make it legal.
It's been legal in the Dominican Republic. Matter of fact, it's just been legalized in New York, pretty much. So you guys have been doing it. So what problem do you have? It's been legal for a long time over there, right? So how can we be bringing down the morals if it was legal in your country before we got there? Explain.
Y'all promoting it. Y'all, it's already been legal, but y'all promoting it. Like all the videos on
How could they
YouTube.
be
How
promoting
you
it? It
get
was
a,
already legal there. It's part of. It's
or
like gambling. It's something they
for
do. That's
example,
like
look,
go ahead, bro.
how
Go ahead, man.
you know how some of y'all SYSBM niggas be like, oh,
Please watch your
look at
language,
it,
sir. Please watch your
look,
language. We don't do that cussing on this.
look. They be like, look at the mangoes. How you refer to a Latino woman as a mango? That's like me saying
What do you?
a peach,
How do
a
you?
burnt
What
peach
do
or
you?
something,
What do
a
you refer
chocolate
to black
peach.
men as? I mean, I
I don't
know.
know. I'm just
I
saying,
know.
like a chocolate peach.
What do you refer to women as then? What do you refer to all your Puerto Rican ladies as?
A woman, a female,
All the
mommy.
time. That's all you refer to them as all the time, right?
Most of
100%.
the time.
Most
Most
of
of the time, unless
the time.
they
You're
being
a
disrespectful to me,
person.
then I say bitch or whatever.
It sounds to me like you're a wonderfully moral man, and I'm happy that you do that. Unfortunately, most men around the world have other names that they refer to women as. That's unfortunate, and that's a sad thing. And we should do better. And I appreciate the reprimand from you, and I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much. If you want to hold on, I want to get to some other people. We'll try and get back around to you in a minute. Okay, Rican?
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. All right. All right, let's see. We got Pablo. What's happening, Pablo?
Not much, man. I see. I'm gonna pose this question here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna answer.
Let me say
First,
this.
I'm
I
gonna answer your
appreciate
question.
everybody being here. I'm enjoying this. We're supposed to have a heated debate, but I just want to keep it respectful. I don't like the cussing in the name, just that's all I want. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So I'm gonna answer your question. Why are Black American men going to Latin American countries? For the same reason they're coming to our country, to improve their lives in some way.
Right.
They're coming here for what? Employment. To
Well,
improve
they're
their
coming. They're coming here for business reasons. They're
to
coming here
improve.
for employment, for better financial, and that's why Black American men are going to countries there. I mean, again, like I said,
Well,
a lot of
well,
men go to a party and hang out. A lot of men go because they found real love, and some go for business. It is what it is. It's fine,
some of us are going to improve our social condition and place. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? So if my money puts me at a higher social status than it did when I'm in the United States, then so be it.
Yeah.
But see, you're coming to our country that we built, right, to improve your economic situation in a system that we helped to build.
Right.
So you want to come to my country and improve yourself on for what I built, but when I go to yours, all of a sudden it's a problem.
Well, yeah, and I don't think they realize that we see it like that. And like, for instance, the gentleman earlier, I said, well, Puerto Rico specifically presents a lot of opportunities because they got a lot of waterfront property. Many don't have the level of money or financing or backing to improve that property, but it's a lot of business opportunities there, and I understand why brothers are going. I got a buddy now. All he does is seize property in Puerto Rico using the federal court system, and he's made hundreds of thousands of dollars since they were having those issues. I get it. There's a lot of opportunities there. But see, again, like I told you guys, when you're dealing the local men there, even if Puerto Rico is actually a territory of the United States, they're not even a foreign country, they're a territory, even though they have a different culture. Bottom line is there's going to be jealousy there. You're going to run it, and that's why you have to conduct yourself in a certain way so you don't bring too much ear to you, too much, negative attention to you. You understand what I'm saying, Pablo?
Yeah. And to the moral question,
Mm-hmm.
I just came back. Well, I've been looking at expatriating to Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I learned about Colombia is they got more unwed mothers than we do.
Isn't that
You're
something?
talking about 80,
Yeah.
you're talking about 80, 90%
Yeah.
single mothers.
They
And
do.
the men aren't paying any money, any child support. They leaving them high and dry.
Yeah.
So we're coming to their countries and being immoral. I mean, really?
No, what's happening is you're coming to their countries with your money and your American mannerisms, and you are it makes it like the gentleman said earlier. You're raising the property values. It costs more to buy. It's the same thing that happened in Costa Rica. What's going on in Costa Rica now is you got a lot of pushback from the Costa Rica. This is where a lot of white folks were headed. They went over there to Costa Rica, and now it's expensive to live there for the locals. And it's what happens when you have a surplus of money. We talked about, remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Mansa Musa. He went from Mali to Egypt, and it just messed up the whole gold currency for like 13 years because he came through spending all the money. And it's like, okay, now our system of finance has been, it's been thrown awry because what used to be, it's more expensive now to buy things because you got these Americans spending, millions of dollars on beachfront property when we used to be able to stay here for little or nothing. You see what I'm saying, Pablo?
Well, yeah. Well, let's look at that in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
When Latino men from Central America, South America, and Latin America began to come into the United States for work, what happened to the black men who were blue collar workers, roofers and carpenters and concrete layers?
That's hot economic. If you got somebody who will do it for a cheaper price, this is America. That's how America
cheaper
works.
Price. And that's right. There you go.
And that's how Americans work. You got to compete. And
it's a global economy now. Now the economy is global. You're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, and so when I tell these guys, we come there with our American mannerisms and our American attitudes. Yeah, you Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Colombians. Yeah, you're gonna have to. It's gonna cost you a lot more now. You're not gonna be able. You got prime real estate down there. You all have been coming to our country for decades now. Many of you who have benefited from the hard fight that Black Americans had, with the racists in 1955. Before that, you wouldn't even be accepted, and you couldn't even use the bathrooms. It wouldn't even be a hotel for you to stay in. And so now we're in a situation where we're calling back that favor. Remember, you can only come to the United States now because of the hard work that Black Americans did in fighting for civil rights for everybody. And so now we, the grandsons of those men and women, we're now saying, well, we're now 64% middle class, 20% rich. We got all these multimillionaire athletes. Black people have more multimillionaires than any other racial group in America. Many of you guys didn't know that. Many of you guys didn't know that 64% of Black men are in the middle class and 20% are rich. What do you think is going to happen with that? We're going to expand. We're going to go other places. We might start with South America, Central America, and the Caribbean, but eventually we'll make it over to Africa. That's further away. People ain't, you can get to DR in an hour. You can get to Puerto Rico in an hour. It takes a little bit to set up and go to Ghana, but that's going to happen too, because that's what happens when you have money, time, and resources. You begin to expand. And so folks just have to understand that, and it's going to begin to upset the normal racial barriers, because now you got a bunch of rich Black men traveling around the world where it used to be, the mestizos and the European looking white Latinos ran things. It's not going to happen anymore because you won't be able to compete financially. It is what it is. This is how the world works, but go ahead, Pablo, and then we're going to try and get somebody else in here.
I'm going to add this one last thing.
Yes,
the Latin immigrants that are here now would not have been able to come were it not for us, because prior to the 1960s, it was non-white immigrants were illegal in the United States. They didn't even allow them in here.
They don't realize that. They don't realize that it's because of that hard work. It's because of what we did. Before that, the population we didn't have this sort of population of people from other places. It just didn't exist. So, but it's okay, man. What I hope this conversation actually, brings about some understanding. That's what I hope. I hope people don't take it the wrong way. This is how men should speak to each other. We speak respectfully. I think it's important to do that. But the bottom line is, it is what it is. And one more thing. Let me see. I lost my man Pablo. We're gonna do a troll check real quick. Let me see here. Super Tony, unmute yourself. What's happening?
Yes, sir. No troll.
No problem. Yeah, we got to do a troll check, man. We don't know who's coming. You guys appreciate this conversation. It's been tough. It's hard. It's a hard subject to deal with, Super Tony. People don't want to talk about racism. They don't want to talk about religion. You know what I mean? They hate that. You know what I mean? But I think that's have stuff. I think that's why we have to talk. This is how we become more sophisticated in the subject matter. But go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to verbally repeat what the Mr. Algo has said on a post that you had made yesterday, verbatim. If you don't mind me telling everyone.
He didn't show up, so it don't matter.
Oh, no, I thought that was him. That was in here.
Oh no, Rican Delphia is a different guy. I believe he's a different person. I don't know. The other gentleman didn't show up, so it's no big deal. Okay, but go ahead. What
Okay.
If you want to go ahead and do what you want to do, bro?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's yours?
Anyway, he said, so you trying to divide Ricans and other Latinos by their color, LMAO. That's not going to happen, and you should only worry about Black Americans. And you addressed his statement by clarifying that you're already divided. Right. And I was hoping that even if certain lighter hue Latinos don't believe this to be true, at least try to indulge the conversation based on the study that was done. So you guys right now, if you're Latino,
that's me.
That was you. Okay, I knew it was you.
Oh, so that's you're Algo. You're Algo. No, that wasn't.
Yeah.
That was him. Yeah, that's it. Because I recognize his avatar.
Okay, cool.
I recognize the avatar.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah,
so
go ahead.
I got two names in this shit.
Okay, that's fine. And I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you being here. But go ahead, Super Tony.
Yeah, I recognize the avatar. But yeah, so even if you don't believe that true, or should I say, even if you haven't personally experienced that, naturally you won't. That's like, for example, give the white American experience from a white person and give a Black American experience, they're going to say two different things. So naturally, you're going to say what you're saying. So at least try to indulge the conversation based on an actual study and then go from there, because your denial is actually what perpetuating this type of behavior to the darker Latinos in these countries. Your denial, it even says that in the article, it's a straight up denial. And right now you're in this conversation with hundreds of people listening to you denying it.
I think there's some kind of small division, but it's nothing compared to Americans. You know what I mean? And back home in PR and DR, the white Puerto Ricans, the Black Puerto Ricans, the mixed race Puerto Ricans of all types of mixes and colors. He
addressed that.
Same thing in DR, same thing in.
Yeah, Mr. Sperling, he addressed that. He didn't say it's like Alabama back in the 50s. Yeah. We addressed that, but based on what was.
I definitely agree with that. You're right. It's not the same as Alabama, Mississippi. And when I say that, the Black Americans understand what I mean. You couldn't even walk down the street in certain towns after dark if you were Black or even brown. You understand what I'm saying, Rican?
Yeah, but it's not like America now, 2021.
Well, no, it's not. But you still have, according to the 71% of these people, they still suffering racism to the tune of 71% of them in employment, media, and school. You see what I mean? And if the reason, and let me tell you why it's important to have this conversation, because we need to be able to distinguish between the racism that exists in the United States and the colorism and bigotry that exists in Latin America. Because I'm gonna ask you a question, Rican. What happens if Black Americans begin to think that they're the Puerto Ricans who we embrace your food, we embrace your culture, we get along for the most part. What happens if we begin to think you guys are as racist as the white folks? How do we then respond to you? What do you think would happen is what I'm asking.
I'm not too sure. Everybody thinks different.
We would begin to treat you a lot differently, brother. You understand what I'm saying? Because see, it would be a misunderstanding. We will begin to say, oh, they white folks racist? Oh, we got something for you. You see what I'm saying? But see, as it is right now, we love Puerto Ricans.
Some Puerto Ricans and other Latinos are just as racist as white people. Some don't like white people, some don't like Black people, some don't like, other Latinos, or some don't like Asians. Everybody different.
and we can deal with those too. But when we start thinking the vast majority of y'all are like these race soldiers that we got on the police force, and then you're gonna get a whole different kind of response from Black American people. And I know you know this, okay?
So what about
You're an
Dominicans?
immigrant, even though you're from Puerto Rico, you're an immigrant. You know that for the most part in those cities and around this country, there's only 3,100,000 Puerto Ricans in the United States. You know that, right? And so the vast majority of the benefits that you get are going to be because that 45 million Black people that we have here have stepped in front and carved it out and made sure we've done away with the racism. And here's the other thing, like, you're going to get looked at crazy in the United States if you start telling people that you're white, won't you? Because you're a mulatto, you're a brown brother, right? You and I, you about the same color, right?
Yeah.
So when you tell
there's a lot of mixed race
Tony,
Latinos that say they're Black or say they're white.
Go ahead, Rican. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying there's a lot of mixed race Latinos that pick sides and they say they're Black or they say they're white, and they ignored a large part of their ancestry like that.
Yeah, that's the denial that Super Tony is like. We get that, y'all. We used to be like that. We have a whole group of Black people that swear up and down they're Native American. We got another group of Black people to say the Black people been in this country beforehand. They deny their ancestry in many different ways. We've dealt with that sickness before. That's something that we worked through in the 1920s. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad came along and he started saying Black power, and he started in the Marcus Garden, picked it up. And then the next thing you know, we were saying we're Black and we're proud. But we were like you 100 years ago, Rican. You understand what I'm saying? Those of us who study history understand where you are. It's colorism. It's self-hate. I get it. I know it is. We still have it in our own. Society. But we recognize what it is. We know it very well. So the thing that I think annoys us is when you guys deny it, especially Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, because it's one thing for somebody in Venezuela who looks white with the sharp nose and the long hair, but we know damn well that you guys have African heritage. And for 80% of the population to say, oh, we're white, it's almost like, okay, I get it. We understand where you're coming from. But for those of us who actually are interested in the well-being of, Black folks and people who are coming into this country and benefiting from what we've done, it's kind of like, I don't want to say annoying, but it's a little bit disheartening. You understand what I'm saying, Rican?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get back to Super Tony because I want to let him finish, and then we're gonna go to Hannibal, and then he's been patiently waiting, and then triple Hannibal, and then that's it. Super Tony, what else you want to add to this thing?
Just real quick. And I don't want to try to demean you. I'm not trying to insult you, but it seems like there's a little bit of xenophobia when it comes to Black Americans wanting to travel to South America regarding business ventures. But definitely. What's funny? Sorry.
Ahead. No, he said that. He said definitely. But go ahead. Cool.
What's funny is that we never felt this pushback like in the 60s and 70s when white guys are going over there and doing the very same thing. So right now you got Asians in Jamaica, Asians in Africa, white guys, they've been doing this for forever. And now when Black guys are like, okay, look, we are now, you know what I'm saying? And now I'm starting to feel that pushback when it comes to us. So, you can say a certain thing, but when we feel it and see it, we're going to respond to that accordingly. So like, do you think like just because now Black men are now trying to say, hey, you know what, let's go buy some land over here and build a business. Now there's trying to be a little pushback because like, we already know there's a certain classism based on a color class based in South America. So when we change that dynamic, now Black darker men are going to be at a higher class in your countries. Do you think your perspective of them is what's going to change, affect your feelings? There's a bit of, animosity there because of that, because like, just seeing Black men in that position, that might be what's affecting you, because white men been doing it. White men going to buying land and there's no pushover. Now you seeing the so-called lower, what you consider to be a lower class people doing those things now, there's a little pushback. Because I noticed that certain things about people, when they have a certain idea of you based on the stereotype, and when that idea is challenged, they feel some type of way. There's a little bit of pushback. I've had, white guys ask me, like, where are you from? But they would ask it in a certain way. It's like, because they're not used to hearing a black man speaking some way. Like, are you mixed? You know what I mean? You were here. I'm telling you that black men who were here this. If you, know what I'm trying to say? So.
You made your point. I want Rican to answer because that's an excellent question. Rican, do you understand Super Tony's question?
Yeah, I do. It's because whole
But
world
let me
is like,
summarize it. Basically, he said, why is it that black men are getting pushed back? But for the audience, why is it that the black men are getting pushed back for the same things that white men have been doing, i.e., coming to Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic and buying land? What's your problem with black men doing it? What white men have been doing?
it's a great question. I think society as a whole, you see, when white people are like at the top of society and they're buying all the land and stuff, it's normal. That's been going on for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
But when black people do it, it's like, whoa, what the hell is happening?
Right? Do you see that?
Bottom,
but bro, that's what I'm trying to tell you. See, here's the crazy thing: you just admitted to your own cultural embedded racism or bigotry right there. That's what we're talking about. It's not normal for you to see that. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, that's the whole world. That's how the whole world.
That's what we're talking about. But that's a breakthrough right there, Rican. That's a breakthrough. You just admitted to the fact it's not normal for you to see black men on a higher social class. You yourself of African descent. So that is, you look at yourself and say, this is how you see yourself. I can't see myself in the higher social class. I can't see myself owning anything. Why? Because society has beat you up and told you that you're less than. It's told you that the color of your skin is an impediment instead of an enhancement. And here you have your black American brothers coming down there and saying, man, look, yes, you can run this. You can run it just like they do. Just use your money, your power, your might, and your mind, and you can do it. Do you see that now? And you're forced now to have to reprogram yourself and to realize it's almost like somebody has been telling you can't. And then you see somebody doing the same thing that they said you couldn't do it. And now it's forcing you to have to reflect on yourself and say, damn, I was wrong. Does that make sense, Rican?
Yeah, that makes sense. But there's a lot of black Latinos, especially in that own land.
Yeah, I agree, because it's a lot of black Latinos there, but we're talking about black American rich. Like, you got 20% of black men in America who are rich and pursuant to American standards. You got 64% who are in the middle class pursuant to American standards. So
in America, 20% that are rich?
Yeah, that's the article that I put up earlier. 20% of black and American are rich. 6 out of 10% are in the middle class or higher by middle age. So by 30 years old, 6 out of 10 black men, these brothers that you see getting shot and supposed to be thugging and all that, 6 out of 10 of them are going to be in the middle class. And 20% and nearly 20% increase. That's a 20% increase from the 1960s. See, what's happening is, and what I do with this page, man, is I dispel a lot of stereotypes. You see what I'm saying? And unfortunately, there's so many pervasive stereotypes for folks like yourself. You're basing your standards and what you conceive about black American men based on what you see on the TV. And it's just wrong. It's been misleading you. It's propaganda. You see what I'm saying?
No.
We are actually, go ahead, brother.
From real life, from what I've seen, in
and then
New
I
York
want to
and
go to
Philadelphia.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I base what I think about, black Americans from what I see in New York and in Philadelphia, New Jersey,
mm-hmm.
and in many other states as well, but mainly those areas.
The majority of black Americans aren't in Philadelphia, New Jersey. Those are a lot of immigrants. That's not, the vast majority of black Americans are in Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Where else, fella? Arkansas, Oklahoma. What, did I miss any?
No, Philly's like 40% black. And
yeah,
it's not like New York.
I know.
It's not like New York and Miami. There's a lot of black Americans.
I know. but those aren't Black Americans. They're immigrants like yourself. That's where y'all like to go. We don't go up there. It's too cold. We down south. We're in Houston, Texas. You see what
I'm
I'm saying?
telling you, Philly, like
we're in
Chicago, got a lot
Georgia.
of Black Americans.
I know, but those aren't Black. They're immigrants. They're children of immigrants, many of them. If you ask them their heritage, they're children of immigrants. The vast majority of Black Americans, like American descendants of those who were enslaved here in the United States, we're in that swath of the southern states.
Yeah, like 60%.
Huh?
I said like 60% of y'all in the South, but it's still good. Like 40% the rest of the country.
Yeah, scattered about. But look, man, I want to get to some other guys before I appreciate you, and I'd love to come on your show and talk to your audience. I know you got a channel over there. I'd love to come. I appreciate you. You're a brave soul. Thank you for coming. Okay, bud. I appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime. And what do they say? Buenas tardes, gracias por tu tiempo, señor. I know. All right. Did I get it right or wrong?
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
All right. Hannibal has been waiting patiently, and then we're gonna go to Triple Black. Hannibal, man, what's up, man? This has been a very intriguing conversation. Well, actually, you know what? We're gonna go to Triple Black first, and then we're gonna go to Hannibal. Man, go ahead. The floor is yours, Hannibal.
You put Triple Hannibal. But anyways, man, I was watching one of your shows the other day, man, and it was like that threat of I guess Black masculinity is really real. And it was almost could be a surface level conversation, but I'm glad that we're breaking it down to be very, I mean, basically, I mean, there's a caste system in these countries that is accepted. It's accepted. And this right here messes up their programming, because in a caste system, now you see Black guys that have access. I'm just using one example, that have access to, I guess, the finest women in that country. That right there is very hard for the run-of-the-mill person in that system to really accept.
And it's not just the women, because that's the small part.
Right. But business opportunities, everything. I mean, man. like he said before, the one guy said automatically, it's just like Haitians with money. We already know how they feel about that. Now you have
you know what? Think about it. It's like you have a certain caste system that's been set up for hundreds of years, where the lighter skinned people are on the top, and in walks a bunch of Black dudes. It's almost like when Abu Bakr II went over to Brazil with 4,000 ships and gold. You see what I'm saying? It's like this upsets the whole caste system that we have. And so you're going to get pushback. Not only are you coming and you're different and you're foreign and you got a different culture, but then you're also coming with your money and your resources. And I told you guys before, women are not race loyal. None of them are. They follow the money, they follow the power. And so that's what they do. And they're going to give attention to the men who have money and power. It doesn't matter his age, what he got. If they're survivors, they're going to go with the strongest men. That's how they're tuned to. That's a lesson for all men to learn. And so, it's going to upset the power dynamic. It's going to upset the social structure. You got your little brown kids in school, right? With their little white. Like I showed you that thing with Roman and the little mestizo boy. They're not used to dealing with well-trained, educated, well-trained. I use the martial arts analogy, but they're not used to dealing with that. Like, these kids don't get training for 8 or 9 years before they fight me. Most of these kids are right off the street. They come to 2 classes and they quit. I whoop their butt. And the little kid was like shocked. Like, it's a culture shock. You understand what I'm saying? So the best way
I definitely understand what you're saying. It's just like like for instance, the feminine Latino woman. She's like a threat to the American matriarchy. Very
much so.
She's automatically gonna get pushback. Guess what? It's going to. I mean, it's going to drive the price of the female matriarchy, because now you gotta be cooperative. Now you gotta.
Let me tell you something, man. Latino men, if you go to Colombia, Dominican Republic, they got it great. They got beautiful women. They get treated like kings. You see what I'm saying? And and even when they come here, some guys, they might just work a regular blue collar job. They get treated like a king. We damn near have to be Superman, and we still get subservient. we get substandard service, so to speak. You see what I'm saying? And so imagine what happens now. These guys who are used to, being able to be like venerated by the family. You got this guy, he looked like he's a black guy, but he got a mansion or a villa right over here. You see what I'm saying? And he's more egalitarian than you are. He's less patriarchal because no matter what you guys do, you do not demand as much from any woman, not even our own, as a lot of men from these patriarchal societies, of which Latino culture is very patriarchal. You see what I'm saying? So, you know.
I just want to say one more thing about the one guy that was pushing back about the racism. And I was just like, I mean, how do you really be racist if you're not even part of the power dynamic or the power structure? It's like a lion having no fangs and no claws. You know, that's like a black person being racist. I mean, if you're not part of the power structure, how can you do anything? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that whole thing is nuts.
But we can't be angry with our Afro-Latino or West Indian brothers because they are not privy to the level of understanding of racism that we've had to deal with here in the United States. You get versed in bigotry, racism, and prejudice from day one around here. You see what I'm saying? They don't have that reality that we live. You see what I mean? So you can't.
I mean, it might be a lion, but the lion can't do nothing. It has no claws. It has no fangs. Like, you know, how can it exercise racism on you? I mean, when is the last time a black guy can keep you from getting a job, moving into a neighborhood, doing anything? When can they do that? We don't even have the power to do that. I mean, it's just that whole empty barrel.
Yeah, that's why the definition that the young white gentleman from California that's why I wanted to eliminate his attempt to use that. That's like sometimes people will come in and try to redefine something that's well understood. And so that's why I wanted to get his definition. But, you know, he didn't want to, you know, I get it. I understand. It's frustrating, you know, when you don't have an opportunity to do that. But anyway, thank you so much. I want to get Hannibal in before he gets out of here. Hannibal, what's up, man? Talk to me. What else you want to add to this conversation? Hannibal, are you still there, Hannibal?
Are you talking to triple Hannibal or?
I'm talking about not triple Hannibal, Hannibal.
Oh.
Hannibal from London. What's up, man? What else you got to say before we get out of here, man? Hannibal, are you there? Man, I guess we must have lost Hannibal, man. But either way, look, this has been, I've enjoyed this conversation. I know it's been kind of touchy. We've touched on some subjects that people don't like to talk about, i.e., the colorism that exists in the Caribbean and racism that exists in Latin America. I get it. It's a touchy subject. But the thing is, it's better for us, since we know it's going to be something that's going to be addressed. It's better that we address it in a reasonable and logical basis using facts, as opposed to letting the word get out that all these people coming up here are racist. Because then what happens, right? What happens is, you know, conflict occurs. And the last thing we need to do as Black people is to be creating enemies out of nowhere when we don't really need to create enemies. We got enough, you know. And so, you know, I hope that this is taken for what it's supposed to be, and that is a productive conversation to eliminate misunderstanding. Yes, colorism exists. It's much like the colorism that your grandmother and your great-grandmother had towards your dark-skinned cousins and nephews and daughters and sons, as opposed to how she treated the light skin. It's colorism. I get it. Unfortunately, it's cultural. It's so ingrained in their culture, they don't really realize it. Just like the young man Reek in Philadelphia said, it's normal for him to see white men come down and purchase property and own things. It's not normal for him to see Black men do it. That in itself told the whole story. It's been normalized to see Blacks as a lower social caste. And so for us as Black men now traveling with our money and our wealth and doing it's just going to be something that they're going to have to deal with. And then, yes, depending on how fast we move, it's going to begin to upset the status quo. And just like the laws of inertia, people don't necessarily want to upset the status quo. But, you know, when you got money and resources and power, you're going to travel. And that's kind of where we are. So, you know, I appreciate the conversation. I look forward to the comments. I hope that.
Can I just say one more thing?
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, one more thing is you know, a lot of these countries, especially with the gentleman asked about how we can, you know, act as a collective. One of the things that we need to do too, you know, with the Caribbean brothers that are here, because a lot of other places have pockets of, you know, of different like groups, like, you know, the Haitians. You know, you might have
Now,
like to
Triple
get
Black, I gotta take my kids to Krav Maga.
okay.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get out of here.
No, I'm
Boys,
just saying. So we need to.
people on
No,
the
I'm just saying
internet won't let daddy go. They around here talking. I'm trying to leave.
we need to take advantage of some of those collectives. That's all I wanted to say.
I agree, man. I'm just giving you a hard time, man. But we've been on here for about almost 3 hours, and I'm ready to wrap this thing up. But we'll be back later on. I'm gonna be talking about some more interesting stuff later on, man. But look, I appreciate you, Triple Black. I appreciate Hannibal, Super Tony, Herb Saint. Big shout out to Rick in Philadelphia, because he didn't have to come on here. I think you Facebook page is I'll go Masa, I'll go something like that. Y'all check him out, man, and don't go over there, you know, saying mean, nasty things. Y'all be respectful. That's what we want, respect. To the white guy who called in earlier from Southern California, you're welcome to come back, man. You're welcome to come back. I want to see you come back. I invite you here. I want to have a productive conversation, but you can't, you know, come in and, you know, we're going to have to, you're saying a lot of things, so we want to break it down so the audiences can understand. If you and I just want to have a conversation, you say what you want to say, but this is for the audience so the people can learn. All right, so keep that in mind if you come in. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. It's been, in my opinion, this has been a good, productive conversation. It was very respectful. I learned a lot. I hope the audience learned a lot. I hope some light bulbs went off in your head, and I hope it creates a better place for understanding. Again, the reason that we're talking about this is because this is what people keep commenting on in my page, and of course, we got a lot of black men traveling overseas, and this is some of the things you're gonna have to deal with. It's not gonna happen if you just going on a vacation to hang out, but you know, at some point, you know, if you decide to set up roots, you're gonna get a little pushback. I gave a few thoughts on how people should deal with that, and main thing is be respectful, be courteous, blend into the culture, show respect to people. Make sure you make friends before you need them. And then, man, get in where you fit in. But the thing is, if you can survive here in the United States and this racism, everything else is lightweight. I promise you, man. Go around, enjoy your day, have a wonderful day. You know what I'm saying? Any day you can spend above the ground is a wonderful day, man. God bless you all. I love you. Shout out to everybody who called in, even the people who hung up prematurely. God bless you. I love you guys. It's Uncle D, and I'm out.